Namaskar to all. I am very happy to share with all of you few thoughts about how the COVID-19 has brought certain reflections, certain thoughts, certain looking within for all of us. And in the context of that, the relevance of yoga. As we all know that, this whole existence, as per the Shastras, we say it is all interconnected, interrelated, interdependent. Gradually, the ecology realized it. The environmental science realized the interconnectedness. The quantum physics also is realizing it when we talk of entanglement and all that. And now, in the context of COVID, we also realized it that a virus in some other society is not only the problem of that society. Slowly, it becomes the concern for the whole world. And that is how the whole world is struggling with this. So while struggling with Corona, with lockdowns, with shutdowns, with all financial problems, certain realizations also have come. I would just share the few of them. That is, the first is the real problem actually for the whole existence, for the nature, is human greed. Human greed is the real virus. And if that is not controlled, slowly we will bring down our future. We will even obliterate it. We will destroy it. So the realization is that because we were confined, we were to face ourselves. And as Swamiji says, jocularly, we were also talking, face the brute. That is, somewhere we fail to accept what I am. Somewhere we fail to face ourselves. Sometimes we fail to really face what is it that I want to do in life, and we get carried away. And at that time, such situations actually help us to look within and also to understand, or to, so to say, to understand and to look within and find out really what for the life is. So for many persons, this realization also has taken place. Also, the post-COVID situation is, we all know, is going to be a difficult period. A period when economically many of us will not be stable. We will be facing many problems. And it is at that time that with the restraint, with sharing, with hard work, with whatever I have, in that how we shall live with all contentment, that is going to be the challenge for us. Also, one more thing was realized during Corona was that, those who had inner strength, whether it is an individual, whether it is a family, the lockdown helped them to develop their bonds or to enrich themselves. Many persons, they practiced, yoga, many did some good studies. So many things they wanted to read that they did. In families, they devised, many ways how to spend time together, and the bonding increased, not only in families. For example, I come from Vivekananda Kendra. So even when we were sharing with our Purna Kalin Karyakartas that how did you spend your lockdown period, and wherever some 3, 4, 5 Karyakartas were there, they said, we found that our bonds have improved. That is, now we are more connected with each other. But where that inner strength was not there, facing the situation became difficult. and there the problem started. So this corona situation also underscored the importance of inner strength. If inner strength is there, we can face the difficulties very well. Now, in the context of all these realizations or the challenges that are going to come, really, we need somewhere, the humanity needs somewhere to course correct its way of life. And actually, everything is a way of life. Though our today's title is, yoga, a way of life. But truly speaking, everything is a way of life. That is, even a dacoit has his own way of life. So just yoga, a way of life, does not define or does not give us any understanding of what is yoga. Actually, we should say that yoga is a way of life based on oneness. Unless our life is based on oneness, and to realize that we undergo certain practices, it is not yoga. So in the title itself, one thing we have made very clear, that yoga is not just asana and pranayam. There are people, they say, oh, today I couldn't do my yoga, or because in lockdown I did every day very regularly, I practiced yoga. Practiced yoga means what? I practiced asana and pranayam. Generally, unfortunately, we have equated yoga with asana and pranayam, but it is not that simple. Actually, yoga is a way of life, based on oneness. Now, when we say oneness, what does it mean? Many of us in our childhood also, or we must have heard in many places, there is one shloka, Akhanda Mandalakaram Vyaptam Yena Characharam Tatpadam Darshitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. That is, I was thinking, I am body, mind, intellect, but a guru showed me the path that I am not body, mind, intellect. I am the consciousness which pervades Akhanda Mandalakaram Vyaptam Yena Characharam, which has pervaded this whole Charachar. So, and Tatpadam Darshitam Yena, that my state of being, who has shown to me, my namaskar to that guru. So when I say I, that I is not just this body, mind, intellect, but my expanding consciousness, or the expanded form of an individual, is the family. The expanded form of the family is the society. The still expanding form of the society is the nation. And the whole, the expanding form of the nation is this whole nature, the creation. So we are all interconnected, interrelated, interdependent. So at a time, I have many identities. That is, I am part of such and such family, I am part of such and such society, I am part of such and such nation, and I am part of all this existence. But this is all Jagat. Jagat means Jayate Gacchati iti Jagat. So this is all apparent. But what has manifested as all this? That is the consciousness, the Chaitanya, the power, the energy, whatever we want to call it, God or whatever, Brahman, Paramatman. What has manifested as family, society, nation, and the whole creation, that is my real identity. That has no death. And yoga is to be one with that consciousness which always is, which pervades this, because of which we see all these changing forms of the Jagat. So Jagat is apparent reality, and the basic reality, or what exists, is that Chaitanya, that Paramatman, that consciousness, and I am that. So the practice of yoga becomes twofold. One is to be one with our real nature, that is Atman, Chaitanya, Paramatman, whatever name we give it. I get rooted in that, not rooted in my body consciousness, but rooted in that Atman consciousness, that I am that Chaitanya which pervades everywhere, which has manifested as all these collectives like family, society, nation, and the whole creation. So twofold practice of yoga. In that, one is this, that is, I get rooted in my real nature. I get connected with Atman. So this is one. The second is that that same Chaitanya has manifested as all this. So my body, mind, intellect will be in the service of, to contribute, to bring harmony in the manifested form of Ishvara. That is the family, the society, nation, and the whole nature of the whole existence. So this is what twofold practice is yoga. If I am only trying to connect with my Atman, or to realize, that is Atma Sakshatkar, to realize who I am, but I am not concerned about what is happening outside. I am not contributing to the harmony around me, whether in society, whether in whole creation, whether in family, nation. If I am not doing that, my yoga practice is incomplete. That is what Patanjali Rishi explains, which we shall see. Now coming to the next point, if really it is my own expanded form is the family, the society, nation, and the whole creation, then why don't I feel it? If someone comes and, you know, hurts me or humiliates me, why do I get angry? Because if it is, you know, my own, I should not get angry. This is our experience. You know, when we take food, our tongue sometimes comes in between our teeth, but we don't get angry with our teeth. We don't tell others that my teeth are hopeless, I am going to knock them out. We don't even go and talk about it. We accept that, yes, because it is my teeth, it is my tongue. But when someone else calls me something, hurts me or humiliates me in front of others, why do I get angry? Why don't I feel that oneness? It is because, you know, most of the time our chitta, that is our mind, is always identified with the vrittis. Vrittis means different thought currents. So with that we are identified. It may be body consciousness, it may be I'm so and so, it may be I understand everything, what she knows, why she scolded me like this. And all these thoughts, we are always identified with this. Therefore, Patanjali Rishi says that yogaha chitta vritti nirodhaha. You just quieten all these thought currents, and automatically your real nature, which is always there, you become one with it. But it is very difficult because the mind has three types of doshas, or three problems we can say. One is mala. Mala means impurity. Then vikshepa. Vikshepa means disturbance. And avarana means covering. For example, suppose there is a pond, we want to see the bottom of the pond. You know, if the water is dirty, we cannot see. That is, impurity is there, mala is there, we cannot see the bottom of the pond. If the water is disturbed too much, you know, then also we cannot see the bottom of the pond. And if suppose that pond is covered with the weeds, then also we cannot see the bottom of the pond. So same way, for our mind, the mala is, you know, our motives, our intentions. Anything that I want to do, what is the motive behind it? If I talk something to someone, what is the motive behind it? Is it to hurt someone? It is to humiliate someone? It is to, you know, I just falsely praise someone because I want to get my work done. So whether my motives are pure. So first is that mala. Our vikaras are also there. That is because of jealousy, I talk something. Because of moha, I talk something. Because of greed, I project something else. So that all our shadvikara, that all comes in the mala. Then vikshepa. Vikshepa is mind is agitated. It is always agitated because of two things. You know, one is what happened in the past. That is, this happened so and so, he talked like that, this happened, and you know, all that, our continuous complaints. There are some people, you know, you listen to their tone is always, that is, you know, aisa kiya, you know, this happened like that. They are always in complaining mode about the past. Or brewing over that, oh, it happened like that, it happened like that. And another thing is, what will happen in the future? So the worry over the future and the grief or the anger over the past or complain about the past. So these two things, this is Vikshepa. We never live in the present moment. Yes, now what I have to do, I will do it to the best of my ability. Whatever has happened, happened. What is going to happen, I do not know. But this moment is real. So actually the realization is here and now. The real yoga way of life is living in this moment and doing what is to be done. So, but Vikshepa always keeps us either in the past or the future. So that's why our mind is agitated. And third is Avarana. Avarana is body consciousness. When I say Nivedita in front of me, immediately this physical existence only comes. My physical mind, that is, the mind is also part of the body, as you know, the Upanishads say. We are not going into that. Only that comes. If that is there, then my reactions also will be always from body consciousness, that is from Deha Buddhi. So that is Avarana. So these three problems which are there, Mala, Vikshepa, Avarana, because of that, I am unable to see that everything is only manifestation of Atman. As in Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavan Sri Krishna says, Atmavat Sarva Bhuteshu. That is, everything is only expression of the self. Self is actually not a very good word. Atman is the best word. Anyway, everything is the expression of the Atman. And therefore, you know, as that is, suppose I make some mistake while walking, I hit the stone. What do? We accept whatever has happened. So same way, maybe, you know, my wife is shouting at me, my father doesn't understand me, my colleague, you know, is always trying to humiliate me. I accept that, yes, things are like that. We cannot change anyone. We can only change ourselves, raise ourselves to the higher level and accept the things and proceed ahead. Anyway, this is a big topic. We shall go, if time permits, later into that. Now coming to the how do we purify our mind, get rid of all this Mala, Vikshepa and Avarana. So for that, Maharshi Patanjali says, Ashtanga Yoga, that is Yama, Niyama, Asana, Pranayama, Pratyahara, Dharana, Dhyan, Samadhi. He calls them Ashtanga. That is Anga. They are part. They are not steps. This is we have to understand very clearly. Steps means when I climb one step and climb to the second, you know, the first step is not required to be done. That is, I should not stand down first. If I go on second, if I leave first, then only I can go second, third, fourth, like that. But this is not like that. These are Ashta Angas. So they all have to be practiced together integrally. This is one very important point. Now in that, you know, Patanjali starts for yoga way of life based on oneness. He starts with Yama. Yama is the Yama tells us how we should interact with the world outside. You know, the practice is two types in yoga. One is when I am with myself, that is called as Samahita Avastha. When I am with myself. But I cannot be with myself for 24 hours. You know, I cannot be meditating for 24 hours. I cannot be in Samadhi for 24 hours. I cannot be in Asana for 24 hours. Because we have to work for our taking care of our body, you know, earning for our family, taking care of our family. We have to work. So one is Samahita Avastha, when I am with myself. The other is Vyuthana Avastha, when I am interacting with the universe. That is, I am interacting with the family members, with my colleagues in the society, for the nation, and for this whole nature, whole creation, whole existence. So that is called as Vyuthana Avastha. And these Yama are, you know, to be practiced when we are in Vyuthana Avastha. And that is why they are considered as very, very important. Patanjali Rishi says, Ete jati desha kalan samayan avachinnaha sarvabhauma mahavratam. He calls them as mahavratam. He says they are to be practiced every time. That is, at all the time. Ete jati desha kala samayan avachinnaha. Means we should not break it, because time is, I will practice satya only morning 10 to 5. I cannot say that. Or I will practice brahmacharya or aparigraha or asteya only every Monday. It's not like that. It is to be practiced 24 hours. And it is to be practiced by taking into account the time, the avastha, where I am, which place I am, and what I represent, whether it is individually I am interacting, or I represent a group, I represent a nation, I represent my institution, and then I am interacting. So taking all that into account, this yama is to be practiced. This is very, very important. Because if yama is not practiced, your all other practice of yoga can go awry. It can go wrong. It will not give you fruit. That is why Maharshi Patanjali, for no other anga he says that, but for yama he says, Ete jati desha kala samayan avachinnaha sarvabhauma mahavratam. Now, what are the yama? So it is satya. That is, we all know, satya is truth. Now here, when we see these 5 yamas, all these 5 yamas are to be understood in the context of oneness. If that context of oneness is lost, that we have to maintain the harmony of the whole. If that point is forgotten, and we go into in practice of satya, ahimsa, asteya, then our practice can go wrong again. That is why he says, Ete jati desha kala samayan avachinnaha sarvabhauma mahavratam. So when we say satya, satya means what is in my mind, the same meaning I communicate to others whenever I talk, I make actions, or even through my tone. That is bodily actions, tone and words. The truth is communicated. Now in this, another very important thing is that, there are people, they say, I am, whatever is in mind, I just tell them. Afterwards, I forget. I don't keep anything in mind. My mind becomes then immediately, I have no complaint about that person afterwards. But I tell him whatever is in my mind. Now, this is not satya. That is, satya is always to be satyam priyam hitam chayat. Bhagavad Gita says, satya is always coupled with priyam and hitam. That is, when I talk, my talk should be dear to the person. Also, it should be beneficial to the person. It's not that dear means I praise. No, if the praise is not beneficial, I will not praise. I should not praise. I should not unnecessarily praise, because then that will become asatya. So, satyam priyam hitam chayat. Because if satya just means whatever in my mind I just tell, then it will not be practice of ahimsa, because you are hurting someone with your words. And therefore, all the 5 yamas are to be taken together when we practice it. So the practice of satya is that. Then comes ahimsa. Ahimsa is non-violence, as we all know. It is by our that is, we should not actually do himsa. We should not be violent. We should not, through someone else, cause violence. And we should not approve violence if it is taking place. All the 3 is important. That is, in our presence, we should not allow violence taking place. We should not hurt anyone. We should not be causing violence. And we should not do it through someone else. Now again, ahimsa is, as I told Eteja, suppose it is 1-to-1 the practice of ahimsa is, as we understand, we should not hurt the person. I should, with my good intention, with my willpower, with all the love that I have in my heart, I should win over the other person when it is person to person. But suppose I represent a nation. Suppose I represent, as we know what happened recently, I am commanding officer of my unit. At that time, I cannot talk of, I will not hurt others. After all, they are also human beings. We cannot talk like that. Because to maintain the harmony, the oneness of the whole, or for what I represent, if I had to fight, even that fighting is non-violence. That is, in this, ahimsa does not become collective value. That is what Krishna told to Arjuna, that all along your life you have prepared yourself to, to protect the dharma, to contain the adharmis. And now when the time has come, you say you will not do it, and you are talking of personal value, when you have the responsibility of the collective. So that is containing the violence of a violent person becomes the practice of non-violence. So this also we have to understand it. Otherwise, as Savarkar used to say, we go in Sadguna Vikruti. So this is practice of ahimsa. Then comes asteya, very important thing. Asteya means non-stealing. Now, many will say that at least this we are not doing because we don't steal. So at least asteya we are practicing. But it is not that simple. Actually, Bhagavad Gita gives the meaning of asteya. Since I was born, my family, my society, this whole nature, my culture, it has nurtured me. And that's how I have grown up. I have grown up in a culture where I can laugh, I can smile, I can sleep happily. I have same parents in the home. My parents don't change every 6 months. I have all this. And so much I have got from my nation, from my society, from this whole nature, from my family. Now, whatever I have got from them, without giving at least something back to them, if I take my food, that is stealing. That is, if I don't return, I don't offer back for the good of my family, society, nation, and the whole creation. If I live only for myself, it means I am stealing. I have taken from them, I am not giving it back. That is what Bhagwan Sri Krishna defines stena, that is the thief, the one who steals, or what is the practice of asteya. So asteya, practice of asteya means my lifestyle should be such that I contribute for the good of the family, the society, the nation, the whole creation, and also my real nature. I connect with that every day. Then only, because of which my body can move, my mind can think, that I owe to that also. I must be connected with that. So for us, to practice this asteya, this giving back, offering back to all these collectives, this is what is called as yajna. So Panchamaha yajnas, if they are practiced every day, then we can say that we are practicing asteya. So what is Panchamaha yajna? I will, in very short, I shall try to tell you. The first yajna is Pitru yajna. Pitaras means not just father, it is all elders in the family. So respecting the elders in the family, remembering our ancestors who have left, it is because of them we are born in a good family, because they face so many difficulties, and that's why we are born in a cultured family. And third is taking, that is continuing the family traditions, family practices, Kula Dharma, continuing that. All this comes into Pitru Yajna. So Pitru Yajna is our offering to the family. The family which brought me up, I take care of that. The next Yajna is Nara Yajna or Bhuta Yajna. In that, one thing is that every day I get food to eat. So as I start earning, because of me, at least every day one hungry stomach should get food. Now we cannot search every day in today's lifestyle. So therefore, every day while cooking, we remove handful of rice or handful of wheat, keep it aside, and then when the bag is full, we go and offer it to some poor person. The second is all the guests, the dependents on me, whether animals, servants, my parents, my children, they all are taken care of nicely. That is second thing. The third is in Narayajna or Bhuta Yajna, that I give my some specific time, energy, money for the good of the society without expecting anything. Okay, so Narayajna and Bhuta Yajna means three things. One is taking care of all those who are dependent on us very nicely. In that, servants, animals, guests, elders, children, everyone comes. Then feeding at least one stomach every day because of what we are, I am able to eat, so I must feed at least one hungry stomach. So taking handful of rice, keeping aside and giving it to the poor. And third is giving specific time, energy, money for the good of the society without expecting anything for ourselves. This is very important. I am offering it back as Yajna. Then the Rishi Yajna. You know, the Rishis have nurtured this spiritual tradition with lot of, you know, their penance, their realization. They have worked all along. They have walked all this length and breadth of this land. Therefore, to study at least some grantha, one or two, stick to it, again and again read it, understand it, and pass it on to the coming generation. So this is Rishi Yajna. Then Deva Yajna. Deva Yajna is protecting the nature. So first thing is we should not waste. No wastage of energy, of water, of whatever. Second is enriching the nature. So in our life, we must plant big, big trees, at least 15, 16. We must help, you know, to regenerate the water bodies, all that. So second is enrichment of the nature. And the third is our body is part of the nature. So we should every day do proper exercises, that is asana, pranayam, and maintain our health. So this is Deva Yajna, because Devas are, you know, the presiding deities of nature and also our body. And then Brahma Yajna. Brahma Yajna is every day to sit for a few minutes and meditate that I am not this body. The story of my life doesn't end with this body. You know, I am that which takes one body after another to learn the lessons of life and to enrich oneself, to grow spiritually, to grow inward. And for that I have taken this body. So I shall face all the situations in life smilingly, because this is only temporary, this body. What is permanent is the lessons that I learned. So Chidananda Rupa Shivoham Shivoham, to meditate on that fact. And if we have taken any mantra or Gayatri mantra, to do some japa, and also to read some book which talks about the nature of Atman, that is whether Bhagavad Gita, Upanishad, just 5 minutes, and then contemplate whole day whenever you get time over it. So these are all the 5 yajnas, and they are called as Mahayajnas, Pancha Mahayajna. So Pitru Yajna connects us to the family. It makes us offer for the good of the family. The Narayajna or Bhuta Yajna, it connects us to the society. It offers us to, it helps us, it propels us to work for the good of the society. Rishi Yajna is for the good of the nation, and because it nurtures the spiritual tradition of our country. And then Deva Yajna is taking care of the nature. And Brahma Yajna is connecting with that, our real nature, which has manifested as all this. So that is what really makes this practice of Asteya, actually practice of all 5 yamas, makes yoga as a way of life based on oneness, because it is all our interaction with others. So this is Asteya. If I am not doing this Panchamahayajna, I am not practicing Asteya. Then comes Brahmacharya. You know, Brahmacharya, people sometimes try to go around it. But to talk very plainly, the Brahmacharya is control of senses. Unless there is sense control, and it is of everything, unless there is sense control, we cannot achieve in life what we want. So Brahmacharya doesn't mean unmarried person. It does not mean that. Brahmacharya is to be practiced by all, even a grihastha, that is a married person. With there are certain rules, they practice Brahmacharya, and the children born to such parents who practice certain such rules of Brahmacharya. In that, of course, one important thing is they are very loyal to each other. You know, they don't betray their spouse, and their mind doesn't go anywhere other than their spouse. They are completely connected with the spouse. So all this is practice of Brahmacharya. Now, this is very, very important practice. You know, many times in youth camps and all college youth, the main problem is they say our mind, we are not able to concentrate. It is because we have allowed our mind to go, you know, after all sense enjoyments. In that, even the attraction of opposite sex, spending time with them, we can have friendship. But if our mind starts going again and again, you know, to certain persons, and it keeps on changing, that is very destructive for the practice of yoga, for the feeling of oneness, for really nurturing our inner being. If you want to do that, you can very well do that. But then you cannot say, I want to practice yoga. You cannot say, I want to really grow in work. Then that is not possible. So Brahmacharya is sense control. Even so, what I read, what I see in the TV, in the mobile, in the internet, there has to be some norms of it, some limits of it. If suddenly I cannot change myself, you limit the time, you limit the types that you will allow your mind to indulge in such things, but slowly turn it. Unless we do that, you know, the other practice of limbs like pratyahara, dharana, dhyan, samadhi, that is not possible. So Brahmacharya. Now Brahmacharya, practice of Brahmacharya is very much required in families. You know, I move around and I find many times the family breaks. It is because of this, a sort of justification has come that, yeah, you are married, but you can also have some illicit relationship with others. So that will break the families, that will break the future of the children, that will destroy the future of the children. So in family, the practice of Brahmacharya is required, in society it is required, and for the inner growth of man, it is required. And then comes aparigraha. Aparigraha means you should not go on, you know, collecting things for yourself. Just because you have money, you keep on taking more and more and more. So nowadays, you know, the justification can be given is it helps in economic regeneration. That's not correct. Our country was the richest country for the longest period in the world. That's what Angus Madison has proved it with his research. You know, the World Economic History, Millennial Perspective, in that book. He says India was the richest country for 1500 years. After that, sometimes India, sometimes China, it went down up to 17th century, 1750, 18th century. And only then later, both the countries started lagging behind. So it is not that if you spend more and more and gather more and more things, you know, economy will improve. In ultimate sense, actually, we are depleting the natural resources and we are creating a consumerist society which is not sustainable. So you must take what you need. There has to be a limit. So that we should practice in our home, even children, anyone, that I will not have more than this number of dresses. You fix at least some number. The number should be such that there should be some self-restraint for that. So aparigraha. Aparigraha is not only of material. Aparigraha is also of your opinions. Many times the families break, the brothers' relationship, the colleagues' relationship break just because I am not ready to change my opinion, even though the facts are otherwise. So that's not the thing. Don't go on holding on to the things. Just be free. Whatever is fact, accept it and move ahead. Whatever has happened, happened. Don't grieve over it and move ahead. That is holding on to the things. That is parigraha. Aparigraha is not holding on and moving on in life. If we get stuck up, we also become revengeful. You know, that also is possible. Certain incident has happened and I get stuck up with that. I hold on to that. I am not ready to give it up. Let it go. At that time, then we become revengeful. So that is why aparigraha. This is also required to be practiced in yama. And these 5 yamas are always to be practiced. There is no relaxation in this 5 yam, practice of 5 yam. Then there is niyama. I gave more time for yama because, you know, that's what makes yoga a way of life. If one who is practicing yoga, you know, he does not live only for himself. Yoga is not individual sadhana. Yoga is a sadhana for collectives also. That is for family, society, nation, and the whole creation. So somebody says, I am practicing yoga and he is not bothered about society. He is not bothered about his family. He is not contributing for them. Then he is not practicing yoga. He is only, you know, for his own some personal enrichment, he is trying to do something. But he can never really have Atma Sakshatkar or really progress in yoga if yama is not practiced. That is what Patanjali Rishi is also very clear. Then comes the niyama. Niyama are those which help us, you know, to develop in proper way so that we can practice yoga properly. So the niyama, we can say, is attitude towards our individual practices. So one is, the first is shaucha. Shaucha means purity. That is the inner purity and outer purity. Today we are talking of Swachha Bharat. Actually, if we read the descriptions of UN Sangh and all, when they had come about Kashi, Varanasi and so many places, when they describe, you know, India was the cleanest country because of this practice of Shaucha. It is internal purity, that is my motive should be pure. Whatever I do, the inner thought is not wrong, is not to harm someone, is not to put down someone, is not, you know, selfish, but it is for self-enrichment. So, Shaucha, the inner Shaucha and also the outer Shaucha. The room where I stay, things are like that, cobwebs are there, the things are scattered, not like that. You just try it. If your room is like that, you clean it nicely, arrange things nicely, and we ourselves feel, you know, very free inside. So this practice of Shaucha. Shaucha, then Santosh. Santosh means be always happy in whatever situation you are. That doesn't mean you should not strive for the better things. It does not mean at all. But if you keep grieving, your capacity to strive get affected. And therefore, you know, in life we should know how to laugh, how to smile. It should not happen that more and more old I become, you know, I lose the capacity to smile and laugh. So we should be smiling, happy. Whatever it comes, it's all right. Okay, if it happens like that, it has happened, that's all. And smile over it, give a good laugh and move ahead. So Santosha, they say in yoga also, in yoga practice, when we go inner, you know, there are many types of samadhis and all. So from one samadhi, you want to move to the other samadhi, still the higher level samadhi. And you are not able to do that. Don't grieve over it. Have Santosha. Because the grief will pull you down. And always at every level, that Santosha helps us to face the situation. So, Shaucha, Santosha, then Tapa. Tapa means actually heating. That is facing hard things in life. You know, we can never grow in life if we are always comfort seeking. You know, the one who wants to become weightlifter, if he just keeps his hand in very soft pillows and applies cream, he is not going to be weightlifter. He will have to put his muscles to the difficult situation, that is lifting the weight. When he starts doing that, the muscles will pain, the shoulders will pain. He has to bear that and still keep lifting. Then slowly the muscles stop grudging. They become capable of lifting. Then he increases the weight. Then again they grudge. And that's how slowly he earns the strength of the muscles. So same way in life, if we have to achieve something, we have to strive, we have to put ourselves into difficulty. Our daily routine should be very strict. हाँ, जब होगा तब करेंगे, ऐसा हिंदी में एक है. हाँ, संभव होगा तो करेंगे, यथाशक्ति करेंगे. I shall do whenever possible. Whenever possible I shall do, never it will be possible. So to become in a way strict with ourselves, to have our own rules and regulations, because more and more you tighten your body and mind, you know, the inner freedom or the inner power is released and that flows. So unless that tapa is there, you cannot enrich yourself. So Shaucha, Santosha, Tapa, Swadhyaya. Swadhyaya is two ways. One is, of course, reading the granthas or listening to great persons. That is one type of swadhyaya. The another one is, you know, contemplating. That is manana, nitidhyasana. And also atma parikshana. That is observing ourselves. That yes, I talked like that. That was not practice of satya. Or the way I looked at that other person, I have hurt that person. So where I have failed in my practice, and there I must start, practicing. That is improving myself. So for that, swadhyaya is required. And last, very important is Ishvara Pranidhan. That is, whatever I do, I offer it, you know, to that Ishvara or to the Atman. I am doing it for the good of my Atma. That is for the Atmanastu Kamartham. Yajnavalkya Rishi says, we love someone, you know, we love our wife, our husband, our children. Actually, we are leaving them for the good of our Atma. So that is for our love also for all others. It should be such that it enriches and it does not enslaves the Atma. It should be the love which frees us. The work which I do, you know, it frees me inside. And it will happen only if I offer it to Ishvara and do it. If I do any work, anything with lot of expectations, then it does not free me. Actually, it binds me, because I expected I will do this and this should happen, and it did not happen. So that started troubling me, and because of that, you know, I became more agitated. So when we are, it's not that in the night we sit and today what all I did, oh Ishvara, I offer it to you. It's not like that. Even while doing it, I am offering it to him. If like that I am doing the work, then the work does not bind me, and because we do it in more detached way, actually we do it better. So Ishvara Pranidhan, the whole day trying to remember Chidananda Rupa Shivoham Shivoham, or Ishvara Pratyartham, as in all our pujas we say, no, whatever we do, if you have heard the sankalpa of any puja, you know, always it is said Ishvara Pratyartham. Means I am doing this puja, Ishvara Pratyartham. I am doing this work, Ishvara Pratyartham. It means for Ishvara. So this Ishvara Pranidhan, if that is there, we become the best instrument in the hands of the divine for the changes that the divine or the destiny want to bring. And that is where yoga as the way of life, you know, we can understand it. Yama, Niyama, Asana, Pranayam, we all know it very much, so I will not go into that. Pratyahara. Pratyahara means our Indriyas are outward. You know, they always want to search their objects of enjoyment. But slowly by practice, I learn to turn my Indriyas inward. That is, they try to go towards only Atman. So they are happy only with Ishvara, with Atman. So to start with, we can simply practice it that my Indriyas should not go in unwanted thing. All the 5 Jnanendriyas, even Karmendriyas. So Pratyahara, then Dharana. Dharana means focusing our mind on certain specific place. It could be a subject, it could be a book, it could be a murti that we have taken for meditation, whatever. So Deshabandha Chittasya Dharana. Our mind is, you know, our chitta is confined to only that area. It doesn't go anywhere else. And then comes Dhyana. So then in that, with one bhava, our mind becomes one with that. So there is no existence. That is, the mind is quietened. And then comes Samadhi. In Samadhi also there are Sampradnyata Samadhi, Asampradnyata Samadhi. In that also 4 types are there. Anyway, we did not go into that because our topic is more as way of life based on oneness. Now when we come to this, the fact that the whole world, you know, is facing the problems like disintegration of families, of societies, even man himself, his body, mind, intellect are not together. They are not integrated. Body is tired, mind does not allow to sleep. Mind knows what is good, the body doesn't allow to do it. So that integration is not there. So this is another problem. Disintegration is a problem. Another problem is sort of meaninglessness, that what for I am living? What is the purpose of life? Or another thing we see, you know, the problem is many times I cannot go with others. That is, that oneness, experiencing oneness and enjoying life in real sense, that I don't know, and therefore I try to forget I am not able to do that in certain sense enjoyments. Then I try to provoke more and more and want to go into that. I am only trying to avoid the problem, run away from the problem. So all these problems are there, and that is why when our Prime Minister had put forward the thought that there should be international day for yoga, you know, immediately 177 countries, they supported it, because really that connecting with the larger self, connecting with the inner self, both practices are required. So you see the hand of destiny into that. Though today world thinks yoga means asana and pranayam, but we in India at least should use the Shastra fully. You know, this Shastra is to help the individual as well as society, as well as the whole existence. And if we don't realize that, and if we use only like asana and pranayam, it is like, for example, a soldier is given AK-56 and you know, he doesn't know its use. He is using it like a stick. So it is Atma Hanana of that AK-56, that gun. So same way, if we do only asana and pranayam, we are doing Atma Hanana of the Yoga Shastra. The Yoga Shastras, which its efficacy is for the whole existence. And we are limiting it only to reduce my weight and to concentrate my mind. That is, really we are in a way belittling our rishis. So that should not happen. So in India, yoga should become our way of life that is based on oneness. So practice of all this has to come. And if we can really, in that sense, we can take it. And there is another point, the spirituality, as Swami Vivekananda said, India has this mission to spiritualize the whole world. Spirituality cannot be taught as physics can be taught, chemistry can be taught. Spirituality cannot be taught. Spirituality has to be lived. Only when we live it, then we radiate it, we transmit it. It can be only transmitted. It cannot be communicated. It cannot be taught. And therefore, this International Day of Yoga has given an opportunity for us, that is Indians, to really dive deep into it, to adopt the practice. And if now in this post-COVID situation, if really we have to do rebuilding of our nation on many lines, because so many things we have to face, there is a very tough time ahead. But at that time, if we awaken this inner strength, if we really connect with this self, which is inner as well as outer, and then we practice it, you know, we shall really fulfill the destined role of India, and we will also rebuild India. I will just conclude with one short point. Because we have heard, you know, there is Bhakti Yoga, Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, Raja Yoga and all that. So when we say yoga, which yoga it means? Actually, yoga is only one. It's only for our convenience to understand. We have given these names. Eknathji Ranade, the founder of Vivekananda Kendra and Vivekananda Rock Memorial, you know, he used to ask us a question because our headquarters is at Kanyakumari. So he used to ask us question that how many seas are there in Kanyakumari? So naturally, people answer 3, Arabian Sea, Bay of Bengal and Indian Ocean. Then he said, no, there is only one sea. We have given 3 names for that, for our convenience, that this side of is Bay of Bengal, this side is Arabian Sea, and south side is Indian Ocean. We have given the name. Actually, sea is only one. So same way, yoga is one. We need all the 4. And Swami Vivekananda in one place gives a very beautiful example. You know, he says the bird needs 2 wings to fly. He needs the tail to, you know, to decide the direction, to keep on the path. Then only he can do the action of flying. So same way in our life, all these 4 is needed. The wings are, as Swamiji says this, the wings are of Jnana and Bhakti. Jnana is, we are all interconnected, interrelated, interdependent. Apparently we are different, but we are not. Our inner self is same. So the other's good is my good. That's why we sing prayer, Sarve Bhavantu Sukhina. So this is Jnana. Or in Bhagavad Gita also, Sattvika Jnana definition is given. Sarva Bhuteshu Yenaikam Bhavo Mavyayam Ikshate. Avibhaktam Vibhakteshu. Though we are different, actually we are connected. Avibhaktam Vibhakteshu Tadjnanam Viddhi Sattvikam. So that is Jnana. What is Bhakti? Bhakti is the Ishvara is not somewhere in the corner. The Ishvara is around us. So serving the Ishvara in family, in society, in nation, in the whole nature. So Bhakti is the devotion to Ishvara, the devotion also to the society, to see the living God, as Swami Vivekananda used to say, serve man, serve God. If you cannot see this Virat and you worship some gods and goddesses, what is the use? Actually, Swamiji said, throw these vain gods and goddesses into the sea and worship this Virat, this your Bharat Mata. Because as Bankim Chandra says, Swami Durga Dasha Praharana Dharini, she is Jagat Janani incarnate. Then Swamiji says, only then you will be worthy to worship these gods and goddesses. You see whether Rama, Krishna, Durga Devi, you know, their whole life is only for others. They lived for others. So if really we want to worship them, first we should live for our society, our nation, for this whole creation. So that is Bhakti. And the rudder, that is the tail, is of self-control. That will keep us on our path. It will not deviate us from our path. And then only we will be able to perform action in such a way that we offer each action to the Ishvara. Only then on this spiritual path, in this vast sky, we can move ahead. So if we can really insist on this living part of yoga, that is, yoga is not 1 hour practice, it is 24-hour practice which integrates man with the society, society with the nation, nation with the whole creation. which integrates body, mind, intellect of the man. If this we insist, then in post, see, whenever we talk of yoga, the question comes in our mind, which yoga should I practice? Jnana yoga, bhakti yoga, karma yoga, or raja yoga? So we have to understand that there is nothing like one yoga with excluding others. It's only the stress that we give. But actually, Swami Vivekananda himself in one place, he talks about as a bird flies, you know, with two wings and the tail. The two wings help him to fly. The tail helps the bird to keep on its path. To keep it on its path, that is, it does not deviate or to change the direction. So that is how the tail helps. Then only the bird can fly. So similarly, we should also have two wings of jnana and bhakti. Jnana is the jnana of, you know, that everything is interconnected, interrelated, interdependent. As in Bhagavad Gita it is said, that avibhaktam vibhakteshu sarva bhuteshu yenaikam bhavam avyayam ikshate. Avibhaktam vibhakteshu. Though we appear unconnected, separate, we are not, we are all connected with each other. So that knowledge of oneness, with that jnana and bhakti. Bhakti is of Ishvara. Bhakti is that Ishvara is not sitting in any corner of heaven. The Ishvara is everywhere. Ishavyamidam sarvam yat kincha jagat jagat. He has pervaded everything. Therefore, the bhakti towards our family, society, nation, and the whole creation. As Swami Vivekananda used to say, you know, worship the Virat. He used to say, what vain gods you are worshipping when you can't see the living God? You know, the poor God, the Daridri God. So Daridri Narayana Bhava. He used to tell us to serve them. And that service is only the real worship of God. But Swamiji says after that another very beautiful sentence. He says, first you serve this Virat, this living God, and only then you will be able to worship you will be worthy to worship these gods. For example, whether Sri Rama, Sri Krishna, Durga Devi, you see, all of them, they lived, their whole life was only for the good of the others. They lived for others every moment. There was no selfish motive. So if really we want to be worthy to worship them, first we should serve society. Therefore, that bhakti is towards the Virat who has manifested as all this. So jnana and bhakti, then the radar is the practice, that is mind control, the self-control. So in that asana, pranayam, pratyahar, all that comes. So that is the radar, and that is the tail. Sorry, radar. That is the tail. And with these three, then we can with these three can perform the action. How again that action is to be performed? That is always to be offered at the feet of God, Ishvara Pranidhan. So all the four yogas combined together only, we have to do practice of yoga. As I told earlier, I don't know whether that was heard or not, Mananiya Eknath Ji, the founder of Vivekananda Kendra and Vivekananda Rock Memorial, he used to ask us question, how many seas are in Kanyakumari? So we used to tell 3 seas are there, Bay of Bengal, Arabian Sea and Indian Ocean. Then he used to say that no, the sea is only one. We have named it differently. Similarly, yoga is only one, that is uniting with that Chaitanya, with the Ishvara, and this body, mind, intellect to be united in the service of the manifested Ishvara, that is the family, society, nation, and the whole creation. That is what yoga is. So in this, jnana is required, bhakti is required, Raja Yoga, that is self-control, is required, and also the performing of action is also required. So this in post-COVID situation, you know, whatever realizations we had in this difficult period are still having, that is what is most important in life. how man's life should be. You know, there is Sushruta Samhita, one chapter is there, Janata, and in that he says the whole society can get really destroyed. So in that he explains all this virus, Nija, Agantu and all that. In that he also tells it is because of Lobha, Bhaya and Moha. That also is the cause of that. So in post-COVID situation, anyway we have to do the rebuilding because many things are going to be disturbed. When we rebuild the nation, let us rebuild on these yogic principles. Let us rebuild it with our these realizations on the inner development also. If we really do that, then we can really, as Swami Vivekananda had told, we can fulfill the destined role of India. You know, because spirituality cannot be taught as we can teach mathematics, as we can teach physics. I can teach physics, but my personal life can be anything. But spirituality is not like that. Spirituality cannot be taught. It cannot be communicated with words. Spirituality is always radiated. It is always transmitted. How? If I live those spiritual principles, if I practice that in my life. So same way, the picture of India should be such that here the family is based on oneness, the society, the educational institution, its basis is oneness. And that spirituality, if it is reflected in our life, you know, as in olden days, we used to say that if you really want to know how to lead the human life, come here and learn. To that extent, we will be able to tell. If you want to know how a family should be, come here and learn. If you want to know how the society should be, come here and learn. How based on oneness, the society, the nation, the whole creation, various institutions should function. So such living examples we have to create. And this International Day of Yoga has given us an opportunity to carry the real message of yoga to the people. So with this I conclude. Okay, one question I am seeing in YouTube is it necessary to be practiced by one particular community? Not at all. There is no question of community. All have to practice. That is, every individual, every family. There is no question of community in this at all. As we know, you know, Yogeshwar Krishna, he was from one community, or Shankaracharya, another community, or Vyasa, another community. Swami Vivekananda, he was the one who introduced yoga in the West first time. He is also from different community. They are all different communities. You see the great yogis in our country. The question of no community comes here. So there is one question that we believe the fear of survival will become controlling factor in post-COVID world. How to overcome it from organizing team. Actually, there is one thing I didn't go into it, you know, the subtler part of yoga. See, when we talk of interconnection, even what happens with my body and mind, I can control. So even the virus, its entry or whatever it does, if really we practice at that level, and also the practices which earlier we had lot of, because our country is the oldest civilization, so it must have faced many such pandemic earlier also. And out of that experience, a traditional wisdom has come up. For example, in our houses earlier, nowadays it is going, the practice was there. When you come from outside, you will not enter from the front door. You will go behind, wash your feet, and then you must change your outside clothes, and then only you can really mingle in the with the house members and all. So many such practices. I don't want to go into detail because that has been discussed enough. Another thing, in Ayurveda, they say the cause of disease, you know, in that they are categorized many ways. In that one cause is fear. If you are afraid, you know, it comes to you. So that is where we have to also learn that in yoga we can control our fear also. So I don't think, at least in India, we should fall for it. That is, we should succumb to the fear of survival. It will not happen. We will very well overcome it. Actually, even today, someone sent me, anyway, I wanted, some very interesting message had come to the WhatsApp. Really, a civilization which knows that death is not a full stop but only a comma cannot be afraid of such things. And fear can become the cause for entry to the virus, to run amok within the body. So we should conquer the fear. Meditate every day. How to overcome the questions? Meditate every day. Follow what are all the practices of cleanliness. And even if suppose, in a way, you are positive, you know, in our country, many such cases are there. Many are asymptomatic. So with your willpower and ultimately be prepared, okay, if my body goes, what else? Next body, a country which has taught that body is only just a cloth, why we should be afraid? In Vedanta, history, long back article was there, very interesting article. You know, one European, he came to India and he was told that Kashi is a place where people come to die. So he was thinking, when I visit Kashi, I won't be able to look into the eyes of people because they are waiting for death. What fear will be there of death in their eyes? So first time when he came, he avoided even looking at those people. Then slowly he got more and more acquainted with the Indian civilization. And then one day, again once when he went to Varanasi, he said, I dare to look into their eyes. And he said, I was surprised to find only peace in those eyes, silently waiting for the death. Anyway, time is up, the body is to be given up. So that calmness, that firm faith, that the soul doesn't have any death, it can take another better body. We must practice it, inculcate it with meditation, with Swadhyaya. We should control the fear. While talking, you know, I use two words. That is the apparent reality. So world is Maya means world is apparent reality. It is there. It appears today, and as long as I have body consciousness, for me it is not a Maya, it is real. Once I get established in my Atma consciousness, that is the Atma Buddhi, then I will know this is Maya and I will see what is reality also. But till I realize that, I should employ, that's why the body, mind, intellect should be employed in the service of this manifested Ishvara, which is apparent reality. And the permanent reality is Ishvara, which is unmanifest. So Jagat keeps changing, the manifested form keeps changing. So our body, mind, intellect, that is the form, the Deha Buddhi, should be in the service of the apparent reality. So it's not Maya. As long as for me matters, that is my body matters, my mind matters, the world is not Maya for me. It is a reality. And therefore I should serve it. There is one question here, Meenal Kulkarni, Tvam hi Durga Dashpraharani. Uske baad connection nahi tha. If possible, please repeat this example. मैंने बाद में repeat तो किया, सिर्फ ये example नहीं किया था. तो जब भक्ति, that is when we talk of bhakti, that is the bird flying example, no? That is, we must have these two wings to fly in the sky of spirituality, to move towards our goal. In that, the bhakti is of Ishvara. It is also of society. It is also of this nation, because it is not just ordinary nation. It is, as Bankim Chandra has Tvam hi Durga Dasha Praharana Dharini. As Shri Aurobindo has said, she is Bhavani Bharati. As Swami Vivekananda had said, that this ancient mother of ours is rising again, more glorious than ever, and proclaim her with the words of peace and benediction. Because she is a divine mother, she will not hurt anyone. So whenever she rises, it is always in the interest of humanity. Therefore, Swami says, proclaim her with the words of peace and benediction. By Shakti Sundaram, there is a question: what are good online resources for yoga and meditation? Actually, fortunately, in our country, we have at present many living acharyas. And in this lockdown period, the organizers of their ashramas were generous enough to share with us a lot of material. So we can look into that. But one thing we have to be very clear, everyone may have some differences in teaching us the practice. We should not get bogged down in those differences. That is, someone talks of this, someone talks of that. Because ultimately it is giving stress on something. So don't get carried away by differences and then keep on saying, this is not, practice is not proper, this practice is proper. Don't do that. Again, my connection is unstable. So what suits you, in what practice you feel better, you stick on to that. Don't comment on others. Everybody is taking some part of it to the people. So there is many things available. You can go on that. But if the stress is given only on asana and pranayam, then that is not a complete practice of yoga. That you please understand. And you practice complete yoga. That is starting with yam, niyam, asana, pranayam, everything. That is what I may suggest. There is one more question in YouTube, that while living in present, should we forget the history that is past? Not at all. I didn't mean it like that. We worry or we grieve over what has happened. That should not happen. You take the lessons of the past, take inspiration of the past, but live in the present. If you are grieving, if you are angry, if you are agitated, then you are not learning lessons from the past. You are stuck up in the past. So don't get stuck up in the past. That's what I meant. Another question is there. Please explain the terms love, unselfishness, truthfulness, and purity in view of Swami Vivekananda. One very simple thing is that you have less thought of yourself and more thought of others. You think less of yourself and you have more concern for others. That is what is unselfishness. That is what is love. That is what is truthfulness. Of course, it's slightly different, but I can say that is what is integrity. So, for example, the mother, she does not, that is when that young woman, she sleeps like a log. If you call her, she is very fast asleep. But once the child is born, the baby, small baby, 1 foot baby, and that baby, even if little bit moves and makes a sound in the bed, the mother is awake. Earlier, even if someone shouted her name, she won't be awake. Now suddenly she is awake. Why like that? It is because of love. Now more thought is of the son, of the child. Earlier, if you get some sweets, you will eat yourself. Now your baby likes it so much and you have only 1 piece. You happily give it to the baby. Or you give it happily to your wife or to your husband. Or you happily give it to your brother. Such examples we have seen. That a very, very poor family, the girl, she gives her chapati to the younger brother. We have such examples. So the love is this, that you think more of others, and to start with, this is what it is.